Okay, so we're going to do some dividing with decimals today. Last time we worked on dividing with powers of 10, so 10, 100, or 1,000. And we noticed last time that when we did that our decimal would move from one spot to another to make our number smaller. When we divide, we get smaller. So if I was dividing by 10, my decimal would move one spot. If I was dividing by 100, my decimal would move 2 spots, and if I was dividing by 1,000, my decimal would move 3 spots. But today we're going to talk about dividing with decimals, not powers of 10. We're going to say I can use strategies to divide numbers with decimals. So I want you to go ahead and write down your title and your I can statement. Yes, I want you to write it in a notebook, not on Notability. I want you to do it in a notebook. So I should see everybody getting a notebook out right now. I want to really stress, remember that any number that's in front of the decimal, that represents a whole number. So in this one, there would be 34 whole items. Then when I put a decimal in there, it says these last numbers are part of the whole number. It means I had 34 complete items and some left over. Pause the video if you need to get all of your notes written down so far. So I want you to think of a time when you might divide money into equal groups. Well, I hope that you're thinking of a time when maybe there were people working together and they need to split the money up, or kind of like if you would think about like Halloween candy and maybe you have to split it between your parents or put it into equal groups. But with money, it's not always whole numbers. Money, we have change that goes along with it. So we're going to have this question. Okay, so here's our question. The magic of this awesome program. Okay, so our question says, 4 friends earn $4.60 collecting aluminum cans. Yes, that is still a thing. We still collect aluminum cans. If they split the money equally, how much will each friend get? Well, this right here, this word right here, equally, that's really important to us because that tells us that they are going to be putting it into equal groups. When we see that, we know automatically that our problem is going to be division based. Absolutely. And since they're splitting it amongst themselves, we know that they're going to put it into how many equal groups? 4 groups. That's right. So we put the item that they are looking to split into groups first, and we're dividing it by 4. We're going to put it into 4 equal groups. Well, when it's written like this, we can't really do the math. So we need to write it in the right form. So here I'm going to put my $4.60 underneath in the house, as I call it, and put my 4 outside. Notice that decimal is still in my problem. Okay, so if you remember, what's it called? Go Noodle. On Go Noodle, they have the song about my hands are high, my feet are low, and this is how we popsicle. Well, part of that song is they're talking about popsicle, popsicle. I always say it as pop the decimal, pop the decimal, because when you have the problem written like this, the first thing that you should do is get that decimal right up top. It goes straight up. We have to do that first. The next step in all of this is divide like normal. Then we just treat it like 460 divided by 4. So we think, okay, how many groups of 4 can I make with 4? Right, I can make one group of 4, multiply 4 times 1. Oops, not multiply, sorry. 4 times 1 is 4. Then I go ahead and subtract and bring down. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. How many groups of 4 can I make out of 6? I have 6 items. How many groups of 4 can I make? That's right, I can make 1 group. Then I bring my 4 down here and subtract. I'm running out of room. I'm going to bring it up to the side. 6 take away 4 is 2, and then I have to bring down, and I'm left with 20. How many groups of 4 can I make out of 20? I have 5. And subtract. I'll do it better on the next screen. Okay, so let's try another one. Remember, these should be written down in your notes. You should be writing these problems down. So the first one we had was we were splitting it into 4 groups. This time we have $2.40, and we're going to put it into 8 groups. So the first thing we do, I hope you're singing my song, pop the decimal, pop, pop the decimal. And then we go, how many groups of 8 can I make with 2 items? Well, if I only have 2 items, I can't make a group of 8, so we should have our X on top here. And then I think, how many groups of 8 can I make with 24? Three groups of 8 is 24. And subtract and bring down our 0. How many groups of 8 can I make out of 0? Alright, I got 0 items there. So my final answer, if I had $2.40 and I'm splitting it among 8 people, each person would get 30 cents. Sometimes we have decimals in a different location. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some steps here. These are the steps for solving a division problem with decimals. So the very first step that we have to check to make sure is we make sure that there's no decimals outside of the house. That would mean, like, if I had $2.40 here and I'm dividing it into groups of 80, or I'm sorry, 8/10. Okay, so if I have a decimal outside of the house, I have to take that decimal and move it behind to make it work. So the same thing would happen here. Anything I do outside the house, I have to do in the house too. So then I have a new problem of 24.0 divided by 8, because my decimal moved once here and once here. We count how many times it moves outside to move it inside. And that's what this step is talking about. Go ahead and write that down. The second step, of course, is to pop the decimal in the house, which we've been practicing already. Go ahead and write these notes down. Pause if you need more time. Okay, and then step 3 is going to be divide as normal. So we're going to go through all the steps right here with this problem. We have 5.49 divided by 0.9. Now we would use something like this if we're putting things into groups. So like if I had a bag of almonds that I bought and there was 5, it cost $5.49, and I'm going to section it off into 0.9 of an ounce for each bag of almonds that I eat. Then I could find out how much each one of the tiny bags cost that I bought. So we're going to go through all 3 of our dividing steps, dividing with decimals. The first thing I need to check to see if there's a decimal outside the house. Well, I see right here there's a decimal, and I have to move it 1 time to get it behind the 9, and that will make my outside number just 9. Remember, the decimal is hanging out here in ninja style. So however many times I had to move it in front of the house, I have to do that behind, under the house as well. So my decimal in $5.49 moved behind the 4, so now my problem looks like this. So that was step 1. Step 2 is to pop the decimal up top. And then step 3 is divide as normal. Well, I have 5 items. Can I make a group of 9 with it? No way, Jose. Then I have 54 items. Can I make a group of 9 with it? 6 times 9 is 54. So I subtract and bring down my same steps of dividing. So how many groups of 9 can I make with that? 1 group of 9. And subtract, and I have 0 left over way down here at the bottom. So my answer to this problem right here, even though I changed it to this, it's still the answer to this problem, is going to be 6.1. Wait a minute. What happened when I took 5.49 and divided it by another decimal? Usually when we divide, our answers get smaller. But when we take and divide, we have a decimal and we divide it by another decimal, our answers will get bigger. I know, mind blown right there. It will happen every single time. If we're dividing by decimals, we're going to get bigger if I have both a decimal outside of the house and in the house. That decimal, it makes it so that things get bigger. So, okay, we're going to try one more here. In this one, we have 91.53 divided by 0.3. Notice there's a decimal in both numbers, so I can expect my answer to get bigger, even though, you know, we say when you divide, your number gets smaller. But when I'm dividing both numbers have a decimal, my answer is going to get bigger because I'm taking this 91 and I'm putting it into really small groups that are smaller than 1. So if it was 1, if I took 91.53 and divided it by 1, I would get 91.53. But I'm putting into groups smaller than 1. So I'm going to get a ton of those really small groups. So the first thing that I do, step 1, is I check this decimal out here and I have to move it behind the 3. And now I have whole 3 right there. Oops, I'm going to give myself a little more space here. I'm going to put it down here. And then this, I have to move this 1 time because I moved it 1 time on the outside. 1. Now I have 915.3 under the house. Step 2 is pop that decimal up top. Boom. And now I can do my dividing as normal. I have 9. I need to put it into groups of 3. How many groups of 3 can I get? 3 groups of 3 is 9. Subtract. Bring down. All right, I have 1 item. How many groups of 3 can I make? That's right, Zippo. And I could choose to do this, or I can just bring down the next number. Now I have 15. How many groups of 3 can I make with 15? I can make 5 groups of 3. All right, 5 groups of 3 is 15. Subtract, and then I have to bring that last 3 down there at the bottom. And how many groups of 3 can I make with 3? 1 group. So notice that I started with 91.53. I put it into really small groups, smaller than 1, and I got an answer of 305.1. It's a pretty big number. When I divide by both numbers have decimals, I'm going to get a bigger number. This was a lot of information to take in. We're doing some dividing decimals, both whole numbers, and dividing both the outside and an inside number with decimals. My letter today is an M. Some of you already guessed my word, and that's awesome, but please don't share it with other people. You need to keep it secret. Go on over to your class Kick. Happy mathing!